Today's video is sponsored by NordVPN. If you're looking for a VPN service provider, NordVPN is the one I enjoy using the most. From accessing country-locked content or keeping your information secure in public areas like a dorm room, NordVPN has got you covered both on your desktop and on the go with your mobile phone. Even in my past videos, they can be region blocked due to copyright laws, but with NordVPN, you can still view them by just selecting a different region to ping the server with, and it even bypasses the Great China Firewall. And if you visit nordvpn.com/magiccarp using code MAGICCARP, you can get a huge discount for a 2-year plan and get an extra month for free with a 30-day risk-free trial. I especially like it for P2P sharing, so downloading things like torrents give me a better feel of security when running a VPN. And Nord makes doing it extremely easy by just downloading an extension on my browser and turning it on in as little as a couple of seconds. With 24/7 customer service, an easy-to-use browser extension or app for your phone, you'll be free to access content online without feeling prohibited. So if you want to be in control of your internet experience, head on over to nordvpn.com/magiccarp to get a discount on a 2-year plan and use code MAGICCARP to get 1 additional month absolutely free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/magiccarp to gain control of your internet again. Hello everybody, I am MagicCarp Usefly, and today we've got Demeki.
Hey everybody.
Today what we're going to do is that we are going to give you guys the whole rundown of the game and how it works. A lot of people think that's confusing, but that's kind of like a common misconception.
Yep.
The core gameplay of Warhammer 40k is extremely easy to understand. The only time that it gets complicated is when you're interacting with special rules that armies have, you know, things like miracle dice,
Savior protocols, disgustingly resilient.
Yeah,
things like
yeah,
that.
synapse. There's a lot of stuff that makes the game a little bit more complicated, but that comes with knowing your army. But knowing the actual game and how to play, completely easy.
Yes, very.
Yes.
I mean, you just roll a dice and you say, I win.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
look,
yeah,
I
yeah.
won. I won today.
Yeah, there's so many different ways that you can play Warhammer 40k. I think that's one of the coolest parts.
Yeah, you have
Yes.
crusade, narrative, and match play. And match play is I grab a friend, you come here,
Hi.
and then we get together and we decide that we're gonna play a 40k match. Now, for a 40k match, we also then have to decide, well, how big of an army are we going to play
Yeah,
against
like how
one
many
another?
points we want to play,
Exactly.
right?
We're gonna play 420.
Yeah, 420. We're going to play with 420 points, and you can totally do that.
I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very short, boring match.
So for this video, for this specific video,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
only going to go up to round 1, and we're going to play through it and talk about it, and tell you guys what we're doing, why we're doing it.
Yeah, we're going to do each player's round 1.
Yes, we're going to do each player's round 1, and then that's pretty much it. Just to give you guys a rundown and just a nice outline of how to play. Very short, very simple.
Right.
In order to start playing, you're going to need a couple of things in order to start. You're going to need some measuring tapes. Next up, you're going to need the core rule book here. This has a bunch of missions in it along with advanced rules. So if you're just starting to play Warhammer 40k, highly recommend getting a core rule book. It will help you out a lot. You'll also be needing an army codex. So you'll pick your army that you want to play. I am picking Tyranids here for this video.
I picked my Death Guard.
Yep, so you need this because this book will give you all the information that you need for your data sheets. You need this book in order to help you learn how to play. If you are a new player, highly recommend buying at least your army codex and the core rule book. It will help you out immensely if you just use stuff online that you find online, which is illegal.
Stop! You violated the law.
Dice, you need a lot of dice. We have a bunch of dice in this office. We have so much dice. If you buy about maybe 24 6-sided dice, you can work with that. 24 6-sided dice is probably like the minimum that you would actually need. You're gonna need these objective markers. You can buy these at a store. These are just objective markers. You need these in order to understand what the objectives are, where they are, and when you need to control them. You can also buy these. These are neoprene mats. This makes it so that it's easier for you to understand where the objective aura is. These are also good. You can get these 3d6 Wargaming, and if you click on the link in the description, you can buy these specific ones. Well, the dice check ones are really pretty. And yeah, that is, oh, and a table. You need
a La Mesa.
Yeah, you need a La Mesa. So this is the table that we play on.
So you can always do a house rule size, depending upon what you and your friends come up with. So you don't necessarily have to do those sizes, but this is the GW recommended
Yeah.
for these point costs.
Yeah, so for this specific game, we're playing 2,000 points. We're only going to be doing one round, and we are not going to be using any of our army special abilities, just because it's a little bit more advanced.
Right.
And for that type of stuff, you can head on over to...
You can go to our YouTube channel on Dice Check to check the advanced rules video.
Yeah, and we'll go over more advanced rules. So that's youtube.com/dice check.
So the way to win a game in 40K is to amass as many points as possible.
So the way that the game is made up is that you get a maximum of 45 points on primary for your primary points, and you get a maximum of 45 points on your secondary points. And if your army is fully painted, you get 10 points, giving you a grand total of 100 points. At the end of the game, the person with the most amount of victory points is the winner.
Yeah, so basically what you will do in order to set up a game of Warhammer 40K is you can use either this book, the Grand Tournament, or you can use, there's also missions inside the core rulebook to set up your table for a game.
In order to get your primary points, you have to control an objective. If you control one objective, you get 5 points.
Right.
If you control 2 objectives, you get 10 points. And if you control more objectives than your opponent, you get 15 points. Now, in order to control an objective, what you need to do is that you need to have models. You have to have more models on the objective. So if you're using one of these objectives, from the very edge, you have to measure out 3 inches. Or just put your dick on it. If you have more models all the way around, that's 3 inches whenever they're inside of it, then you control that objective, if you have more than your opponent. Every single army has access to troops, okay? Troops have this thing called objective secured. If you have a model that has OBSEC, like this unit right here, this model right here, this is a Termagant, it has OBSEC. If you place this on here, even if your opponent has more models on the objective, since this model has OBSEC, that means that I control the objective, even if he has more models. If he has a unit that has OBSEC and I have a unit that has OBSEC and they're both on the objective, then it goes back to whoever has the most models on the objective. On top of that, you also have your secondaries. Secondaries are these points that you can gain from selecting your own special set of secondary points. These are all the secondary objectives that you can select for your army. You can pick one from every single category up to 3. So each secondary objective gets you a max total of 15 points. As long as you have more points than your opponent, then you are winning.
Alright, so for how you play the game, it goes up to 5 rounds, each round consisting of turns, and these turns are broken down into phases. The command phase, where you gain a command point and do your scoring. The movement phase, where you move every unit in your army. The psychic phase, where you can attempt to cast and deny psychic powers. The shooting phase, where you are allowed to shoot every ranged weapon on your units. The charge phase, where you attempt to get into melee combat with another unit. The fight phase, where you do melee combat with a unit you're in engagement range with. And finally, the morale phase, where you take morale tests to see if your units run or not. Note that you cannot go back to a previous phase once you move on to the next phase of your turn. When a player finishes their turn by going through every single phase, their turn ends and it passes off to their opponent. And once both players have finished their turn, that completes a round. At the end of round 5, the game is over.
Okay, so now we are going into the setup process in order to set up a game of Warhammer 40K. Usually you want to use a mat, these or you can get these at frontlinegaming.com. They have a lot of these game mats. You don't have to use them. You could just use like duct tape and put it on the table in order to show like where the boundaries are. But you can get these mats which are cut perfectly for 9th edition. And so that's what we're gonna lay out right now, which is just gonna be right here, put it on the table, and roll it out. This is measured out to 44 by 60, and that is how you set up just this area. Next, what we're gonna set up is all the objectives. So in order to do that, we have to figure out which mission that we're playing. So for this one, we're gonna use the Grand Tournament rulebook. So we rolled a 12, which means that we are playing the mission Scorched Earth. In order to do this, we just have to look at this mission. It gives us this information right here that tells us what the deployment is gonna be like and everything like that. And it gives us all of our measurements on how to set up the board. You have player A deployment zone and you have player B's deployment zone.
And that's because this mission has a very specific primary objective.
Yes, so we're gonna set that up now. So we set up the deployment and the objectives. And we did that using the Grand Tournament rulebook. Now we can start putting down our terrain. Now, in 9th edition, terrain is very important.
Yes, it is.
Every single terrain has different rules now. You have your ruins, you have your crates, you have your forests. But basically, you can use whatever you want, really, as long as you and your opponent both agree on the rules for the terrain. Now, you would just place these across the board in whichever way that you want, that you feel like would give the most thematic feel to your gameplay. All right, so we have set up the terrain according to WTC as much as we can. We also put in our deployment zones. We have player A deployment zone, which is going to be right here, and we have player B's deployment zone, which is going to be right here. Both players then roll off to see who decides which side that they're going to take for the deployment zone.
Right.
All right, and then the person with the highest number chooses their deployment zone, and then the other player puts down their first unit to deploy.
You can use whatever dice you want. Normally, we just use D6.
Yes.
Ah!
3.
3.
And I got a 2.
Okay.
So,
I'm going to take this side because I don't want to move.
okay, which means that I would be on that side, and this starts the game. So now I have to start putting my units inside of the deployment zone. Right. For clarification, this would be a model. One piece is a model. Having them all together creates a unit. Now I have to go in and I have to put down my unit anywhere on the board on my side of the deployment zone, and I have to be very smart with this because I don't know who's going first yet. After I'm done deploying mine,
then it's my turn.
It's his turn, and
So,
the players alternate.
Certain units or certain models are only one unit, like Mortarion. He's only one unit.
Yep.
So I will put him down, and then it would be Matthew's turn again.
Yes, and the players alternate putting down units until both players are done deploying their entire army. And that's what we're going to do right now. So we're going to do that. We'll keep it on top down so you guys can see what we're doing and go from there. Cool?
Cool. Let's
right.
do this.
I'm just going to deploy them like fucking
Move him
stupid.
over.
So, we have now deployed every single unit inside of our army, which means that now we get to roll off and see who gets first turn. Now, the person that rolls the highest number off of a d6 is the winner. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to see who's going to go first in this game. All right?
Yeah, yeet. 6.
Jesus.
Oh! 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 I bet y'all thought this was going to be boring. Oh, fuck.
So, I got the highest number, so I will be going first. After that, you and your enemy shake hands. And now you begin your game. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna start playing my turn, and I'll go over everything for every single phase. First and foremost, we go into my command phase. Now, in the command phase, I gain 1 command point. With that command point, I can use that in order to spend those points on stratagems. The only thing that we're going to be using is going to be probably like command reroll or something like that. But you don't have to worry about stratagems too much as of right now. That comes with your army. Also, during your command phase is when you would get points for your primary points. However, in round 1, you are not allowed to score any primary points whatsoever.
None.
None at all. So you only gain your primary points on rounds 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's my command phase. I'm done. Next, I'll go into my movement phase. And this phase is where I'm allowed to move every single unit as much as I want, depending on their data sheet. Going into my movement phase, looking at my codex here, Tyranid warriors are going to be the first things that I want to move. So this is a unit of Tyranid warriors right here. Now, these warriors, on their data sheet, it says that they can move up to 6 inches. In order to do that, I take my measuring tape, I go up to 6 inches, or I can use my cut. So I can move 6 inches. I'm gonna get rid of my deployment zone dice right here. I measure it from the tip of the base, and then I move it up 6 inches. We know that this is the farthest that they can move, so we're just going to just clump them up, moving up this way. But that's pretty much it for this unit, so we're just gonna go ahead and do this with every single unit in my army, showing where I want to move. what I'm doing with this unit right here is that I am moving these guys up so that I can touch the objective right here. That way I can control the objective on my next turn, so then I can get more points for my primary points. So what I'm going to do now is that for one of my models, I want them to do something called an advance. In order to do an advance roll, you would take one dice and you would roll it, and you would add this number onto their movement characteristic. So this Neurothrope has a movement characteristic of 5, and I rolled a 4. That means that I can move him up to 9 inches. So moving him 9 inches, he can move all the way up to over there. So that is going to be the only unit that I will be advancing, and that is the end of my movement phase.
Wow.
Going into my psychic phase, I select a unit from my army that is a psyker. Not all armies have psykers, but there are armies that do have psykers. Every psyker, you can assign what psychic powers they can use. When you're building your army list, you can choose which psychic powers that they can cast inside the game. In order to cast them, you roll 2 dice. And you have to meet their warp charge value. Every psychic power has a warp charge value. In order to keep things simple, the only psychic power that this Neurothrope is going to cast is going to be the psychic power Smite. In order to cast Smite, it has an 18-inch range. So I measure from the base of my model 18 inches, and the closest visible unit that is 18 inches from this Neurothrope, I can cast my psychic ability on. I'm gonna cast the psychic power Smite on these Mephitic Blight Haulers. Smite has a warp charge value of 5. I'm gonna roll 2 dice, and the total value has to be 5 or higher in order for me to successfully cast it. So I will attempt to cast Smite on that unit right here. I got a 6.
Nice.
Because Demeki has a unit that is also a psyker, he can attempt to deny the witch.
So I will attempt to deny, which means I have to roll a 7 or
Higher. He has to get a higher result than what I rolled.
So here we go. And I rolled a 6, so I failed.
So he failed his deny the witch test. So because of that, my psychic power goes off. I will now deal D3 mortal wounds to this unit. Since I successfully casted it, I will now deal D3 damage onto this unit. I rolled a 5, which means that I deal 3 mortal wounds to this unit. You can find this on your data sheet, how many wounds a unit has. So consider wounds kind of like hit points for the models. These guys have 8 wounds each. This one particular model is what he chose, and he took off 3 hit points from that model. Sir, opponent, I have completed my psychic phase. I will now be going...
Now apologize to my model.
I am sorry. Now I'm gonna go into my shooting phase. Now, in the shooting phase, what you do is that every single unit inside of your army that has a ranged weapon is allowed to shoot every single ranged weapon that they are equipped with. So, in order to shoot something, first you have to declare what you're shooting, what unit you are shooting at, how many shots you're shooting, and what you are hitting on.
Right.
Those are the 4 main things that you kind of want to talk about. So, we're going to shoot with my Tyranid Warriors right here. This unit is equipped with 6 Death Spitters and 3 Venom Cannons. Looking at the data sheet for a Death Spitter, it is Assault 3. That means that they can shoot that gun up to 3 times. There are 6 models inside of that unit that have Death Spitters. So each one of them can shoot 3 times, which means that 6 times 3 would give you 18. So I'm gonna be shooting 18 shots with my Death Spitters. So all that entire unit, we're gonna shoot everything into this unit of Plague Marines.
No, my boys. No, my boys.
So we're gonna shoot everything into those Plague Marines, both the Death Spitters and the Venom Cannons. In order to do this, first I tell my opponent, hello, opponent.
Hello, sir.
I will be shooting my Tyranid Warriors at your Plague Marines.
No, you can do that.
With all of their weapons.
And the reason why he does that, and you should do that every time when you declare any type of attack, is to let your opponent know, because you might have modifiers that adjust things for your opponent's models.
Exactly.
And vice versa.
Exactly. You always want to be open with your opponent and tell them exactly what's going on.
This is a gentleman's game.
It is a gentleman's game. With 18 shots, every single shot is 1 dice.
Right.
Okay? So I need 18 dice. Now, the next step is to look at your unit's BS, also known as your ballistic skill.
You sure that don't mean bullshit?
Right underneath BS, it will say 3+ or 4+. What that means is that that is the number that you need to roll to successfully hit. If you played something like Dungeons & Dragons, it's basically the same thing as a skill check. For a Tyranid Warrior, they hit on 4+. That means that in order for these 18 shots to successfully hit, I'm looking for 4s, 5s, and 6s. Everything that is not a 4, 5, or a 6 is a failed hit.
50% chance.
50% chance.
Let's see it.
All right, so I tell my opponent, 18 shots hitting on 4s.
Yes, sir.
And then I roll my dice.
And then you look as the opponent in there and be like, God damn. There's a lot of 4, 5s, and 6s in that bitch.
Yeah. So we are only looking for 4, 5s, and 6s. That means that we are taking out everything that is not a 4, a 5, or a 6. So all these 3s, 1s, and 2s all come out of the box.
What is this bullshit?
So we're left with 10 shots that successfully hit. After you have hit, you go on to your wounding sequence. In order to wound, you have to compare the strength of your weapon to the unit that you're shooting at toughness.
Right.
Looking at the data sheet for Death Spitter, underneath S, it will say 5. So my gun has a strength of 5. I asked my opponent, hello, opponent.
Hello.
What is the toughness of the Marines that I am shooting at?
These Plague Marines are T5, as in toughness 5, sir.
Okay, so strength 5 versus toughness 5. That means that they match. If the strength of your weapon matches the toughness of what your target is, then you are wounding on 4s and higher. If your strength is higher than their toughness, then you are wounding on 3s and higher. If your strength is double their toughness, then you wound on 2s or higher. If their toughness is higher than your strength though, then you are wounding on 5s and higher. And if their toughness is double your strength, then you are wounding on only 6s.
That's a lot of information.
That is a lot of information, but we'll run down. We'll run through it. It's not a big deal. We got this. It's fine. It's fine.
That's what the graphics are for.
Yeah.
Throw up them graphics.
10 dice went through. 10 dice were a successful hit.
Yep.
Now I'm gonna look for wounds. My strength is 5. Your toughness is 5.
Correct.
That means that I will be wounding on 4s, 5s, and 6s.
Correct.
So I roll these 10 dice and I look for 4, 5s, and 6s. Okay. So
God damn.
we missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wounds.
That's below average.
Which is below average. So these are the 4 shots that went through and successfully wounded. Now, Demeki is going to do something called a saving throw.
Basically, now after he has made his wounds, which are
is
4,
Yep.
I grab 4 dice. Now I will turn to him and I will say, what is the AP armor penetration of that weapon? Because sometimes weapons have an armor penetration in their profile, which lowers your chance of making the save throw, which I'll go
Yes.
further into once he tells me.
Yes, so my Death Spitters have an AP or armor penetration of -1. In order to decide what your saving throw is, you take, if you look at your codex, right underneath SV, it will say 3+, 2+, 4+, 5+, 6+. That is your saving throw. What is the saving throw of your Plague Marine, sir?
So my saving throw normally, unmodified, is a 3 up. So because you have an AP -1, it's now a 4 up. Essentially, you're gonna add.
Yeah.
You're not subtracting.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's weird. It's weird. It's annoying. I understand. Yeah.
Like I said, I normally have a 3 save. Now I have a 4 save because of the 1. So I will roll all 4 dice at the same time, and I only save 1.
Yes.
Because I rolled a 5.
Yes.
I was looking for 4 or higher, so I rolled below average.
Yes. So since he failed to save 3 wounds, we go into the damage sequence.
So how much damage does your weapon have?
1 damage, sir.
Okay, sir. So that means because of the current rules for this army, 3 Marines die a horrible death, and they smell bad. So
And they stinky.
they stinky.
They
Marines.
so stinky. So that was the shooting for my Death Spitters. Now we're gonna move on to the Venom Cannons, which I declared we're gonna go into that Marine unit as well. Do the same process. The only difference is that a Venom Cannon is Assault D3. If a weapon says something like D6 shots or Assault D6, you need to first roll to see how many shots you have to do. So since it's Assault D3, I'm rolling 3 dice to see how many shots I am making here. So 6 divided by 2, rounded up, is 3. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2.
That's pretty good.
So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shots that I am making here.
That's pretty good.
So 7 shots, I am hitting on 4s. So I'm looking for 4s and higher. 2 of them go
Yikes.
through. So that was on 4s and higher. Now, this is strength 8. Your toughness is 5.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I am wounding on 3s. So I'm looking for 3s or higher because my strength is higher than his toughness.
Correct.
Okay, so I got a 4 and a 5, which means I have successfully wounded. This has an armor penetration of -2.
So armor penetration -2 now means that I have to save on a 5 since they're originally 3. So let's see them. Oh! Oh!
Oh! Oh!
There it is.
All right, so he saved those wounds, which means that that unit is done shooting. My turn for shooting is now done. I will now move into my next phase, which is the charge phase.
Correct.
The charge phase, I would need to measure out 12 inches from a model and attempt to charge. However, if there are no enemy units within 12 inches of a model, I cannot attempt to charge. So since I cannot attempt a charge in order to get into engagement range to do a melee combat, my charge phase is over. Now moving into my melee phase, I have nothing within engagement range, which means that I cannot do any melee combat. Going to the morale phase, both players have to then take a morale check. In order to take a morale check, you have to do it on a unit that has lost models.
Yes.
There are no units in my army that have lost any models this turn. However, there are units inside of Demeki's army that have lost models.
Yes.
So that means that he has to make a morale check. In order to take a morale check, you take the highest leadership of the unit. So we're going to take these Plague Marines, for example.
Yes.
If you look at your data sheet, underneath LD, the highest leadership that they have is an 8. They lost 3 models, which means that in order to see what you need to roll to see if they are fearless and they want to still stay inside of combat, you take 8 minus the models that you lost that turn. He lost 3. 8 minus 3 is 5. If you roll anything higher than a 5, which is only a 6, that means that one of your models would leave, and then you would go into your combat attrition test. So first, let's see if a model leaves from this unit. You would need a 6.
That's a
No,
5.
that is a 5, so therefore this is fine.
Same
Moving
thing
on
over
to
here.
the other unit, they lost how much?
3.
They lost 3, and their leadership is 8 as well.
Yep.
So you need to roll a 6. No, so they are both fine. But let's go through a scenario where leadership, where they would run.
Oh shit! I rolled a 6.
Oh no!
That means one is scared shitless, which I don't know how they would be.
Yeah.
But one is scared shitless and he runs.
Yeah, so you would pull one immediately.
Yes.
They would flee the battle. After that, you then take another test. This is called a combat attrition test. How many models you have left, you roll that much dice. Any roll that is a 1, another model would flee. If your unit is underneath half of what you originally started, if you roll a 1 or a 2, those models would leave as well.
On a 1 or a 2, because I did lose half of the unit, they would run.
No, so they are fine. And they stay in combat because they are so fearless and strong.
Unlike their brother that ran off,
Yeah.
because he's a pussy.
And that is the end of player 1's turn. So now that I'm done with my turn, I would tally up all my points. I gain no points. So going into Demeki's turn, we're gonna play more quickly because we already went over more stuff.
Right.
But we're still gonna run through it. But we're just gonna run through it a little bit more quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
So command phase, I got my CP. Now I'm moving directly into my movement phase. And I will just start moving my guys.
So going into Demeki's turn, he is now done with his movement phase, which means that he will be going into his shooting phase.
Yes. And I'm done with my shooting phase. I'm not going to declare any shooting.
In order to speed up the video.
Yeah, because we've already done shooting.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm going to cover charges.
Yeah.
Because I have a lot of things that like to charge. So when it comes to a vehicle and you're measuring charges or any type of movement or firing, vehicles are special. If it doesn't have a base, you measure from the hull. And the hull is any part of the model. So from here, that would be a 7-inch charge.
Yes, and in order to complete a charge, you need to roll a result that would put you within 1 inch of an enemy model.
That is correct.
That would be called engagement range.
Yes.
So he is charging, he needs a 7-inch charge in order to get within 1 inch of my unit.
And in order to make a charge roll, you roll 2d6, and then you combine that total together, and that is your movement.
Yes.
So I will pull these dice out of here, and I will start my charge.
6, 7, 8.
That's an 8. So that's 1 more inch than I needed. So sometimes if you do roll higher and you get extra, then you can move that unit that additional inch as well, if you can work it.
Yeah.
Because for this, I cannot.
So he moves that in. That is 1 successful charge.
Yes.
Would you like to make any more charges?
I will do the Prince, Mortarion, and these boys right here.
Okay.
The Prince is a little bit further away. That's why I selected it, just so we can see what happens during a failed charge. So this is about an 8-inch charge. So I need an 8 again. That's a 7. So I did fail. So this would come into play to where I could CP reroll. We've already gone over CP reroll, so I'm not going to do that.
Okay, so he has failed that charge.
Yes.
Going into the next unit that wants to charge.
So Mortarion is going to charge your warriors. 5-inch charge.
All right, so he needs to roll 2 dice in order to make this charge. Now, I will be using 1 CP to Overwatch.
Yes.
Overwatch is the same thing as your shooting phase. However, you only hit on 6s.
Correct.
So we're going to spill everything into Mortarion. You can only Overwatch the unit that is charging you. So we can only shoot at Mortarion. That means that we're going to do my entire shooting again. So we're going to do 18 dice. So that unit will be Overwatching. I am hitting on 6s. Any 6 is a successful hit. I got 3 hits that are successful. These are with my Death Spitters. Okay, so I have 3 dice that successfully hit. Now I'm going to do my wounds. What is the toughness of Mortarion?
He is toughness 7.
Okay, so I am wounding on 5s. So we're looking for 5s. Nothing hits. Okay, so that failed. Going into the Venom Cannons. These are D3 shots. Doing this again. 2, 4, 5 shots. 3, 4, 5. With the Venom Cannons. I am hitting on 6s. I get 1 that goes through. This is Strength 8, which means that I am wounding on 3s, so I need a 3 or higher. I got a 4. So that successfully wounds. This is minus 2 AP.
So he has a 3-up save, which is now a 5-up. And
he makes it. So therefore,
the Lord of Fives.
Therefore, that my Overwatch is done. And he can continue with his charge.
So once his Overwatch is done, that means that now I can roll my charge. And I'm in. And now I'll do the Mythic Blight Haulers. 5 again?
I think that's number 5. Yeah.
All right. So, and then normally it's always good when you're measuring out a charge to ask your opponent, like get them involved with what you're doing so it doesn't, you don't feel like you're doing anything malicious. It's just, again, it's a gentleman's game.
Yes.
So,
always check with your opponent.
So,
You got
5?
a 5?
I got a 4.
You got
so
a 4.
That fails.
Yes. Now he could spend a command point to re-roll it.
Hey.
8. So he's in.
So I'm in here.
Now, command re-rolls and Overwatch, these are general stratagems that every single army has access to.
Yes.
That is the end of his charge phase,
Yes.
which means that he will now go into his fight phase.
Right. So for every fight phase, normally the player whose units have charged, those are the ones to fight first. So everything that is charged fights first, unless your opponent uses a stratagem that allows him to fight. So it's an interrupt.
Yes, yeah. But no matter what, the player who charged first, they do get to swing first,
Yes.
no matter what. So,
I'm going to have Mortarion fight first. Because
Okay,
it
then.
is Mortarion.
all right.
During your fight phase, especially determining whether what you have charged determines what you might activate. So the reason I chose Mortarion is because there's a lot of juicy warriors right there that are OBSEC, and I would like to kill those off first so that they don't control an objective. Now, the thing that I would like to know before I start gathering dice and figuring out what I'm going to do to the warriors is what weapon profile I'm going to use. And in order to figure that out, I would like to know how many wounds do your warriors have.
My warriors have 3 wounds, sir.
Okay, then I would look at Mortarion's data sheet, and I would look at his weapons. Now, Mortarion does have a scythe, his melee weapon, and it has 2 different profiles. Now, because I want to kill off as many of these boys as possible, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a profile that's going to fit to make sure I can kill as many as possible. So I will select the Eviscerating Blow.
Now, how many attacks do you make?
So the attacks are based on the data sheet for attacks.
Okay.
And Mortarion has 6 attacks. So before you get into your attacks, you have what's called a 3-inch pile-in. So that means that you get 3 inches of movement any direction as long as you end up closer to the
Nearest
unit
enemy model.
or
Nearest
nearest
enemy.
enemy model.
Yeah.
So like Mortarion right now, I'm not touching base, so I could go 3 inches this way as long as I'm closer to the nearest enemy model.
Yeah, and that's called a pile-in. Every
Yeah.
single unit does that when they activate.
Correct.
Okay.
So for Mortarion, he has 6 attacks.
Okay.
And I'm using the Eviscerating Blow. So this is going to be 6 attacks, and it hits on 3s, or 2s, sorry.
Yeah.
Not re-rolling anything.
You should talk about weapon skill as well.
So weapon skill is just like the ballistic skill for the gun. Your weapon skill, which is WS on the data sheet, determines what you hit on. For Mortarion, he hits on 2 up. So on a 2 or higher, I will hit the enemy model.
WS is used for melee combat, and BS is used for ranged combat.
Right. And most people think BS when they're getting attacked by ranged combat anyways.
Yeah. So he's using his WS profile, which means that he hits on 2s.
Which I hit on 2s. So I will roll the dice and see what I get. So I dropped 3. Out of the 6, I did not hit. When you're determining your wounds for a melee attack, you look at your strength, and then you look at the weapon profile. So strength being S, Mortarion is an 8. His weapon profile says ×2 for strength, which means 8 times 2, which is 16.
Yeah.
Other models will have either +1 or user.
Yeah. +1, user, +2, anything like that.
So on and so forth. I'm at 16 strength. What's your toughness?
My toughness is 4.
All right. So I am wounding on 2s.
Okay.
I have 3 wounds.
Okay.
So,
and what is the armor penetration?
So armor penetration for melee weapons is the same as ballistic weapons. It's AP under the weapon profile, and this one is -4.
Okay. So my save is a 4+. I do not take a save because you said that's -4, correct?
Correct.
So 4 + 4 is 8. The highest number I can roll on a dice is 6. Therefore, my units automatically will take this damage.
Right.
Because I would not be able to get a saving throw.
So this is D6 damage.
Okay.
So just like when you have some weapons that have D3, D6 shots, there's also weapons that deal dice amount of damage.
So this will be the first one.
So this is the first one. That's 1.
So 1 is down to 2 wounds.
Yep.
Okay.
The next one is a 2.
Okay. So
Luckily.
so then this.
So that man's just dead.
Yes. And then I would pull the model.
And then the last one is a 2.
Okay. And then that would mean that one of my models is down to 1 health. All right. So now I can do something called an interrupt.
Yeah.
So I will now, since he is done attacking with his Mortarion, I can now interrupt. And in order to do that, I have to spend 2 CP in order to use that stratagem. I'm going to use that right now, which means that I get to activate.
Yes.
I activate by moving my units 3 inches up, closest to the enemy model.
His pile in.
This is my pile-in move.
Why are you making sure that you pile in as close as possible with all of your units?
Yeah, so the reason why pile-ins are so important is because sometimes you have models that have really big bases. Now, in order to get all of them to attack, the only models that are allowed to attack are models that are within 1 inch of the model that you are attacking in melee combat. However, if the model is within ½ an inch of the model that you're attacking, and you have a model ½ an inch within that model, then both of those models can attack.
This sounds kinky.
So it's ½ an inch within ½ an inch.
They're nut to butt.
Yeah, nut to butt. Each one of them has bone swords. You killed 1. Okay, so all of them being able to attack, it is a unit of 9, which is now a unit of 8. They all get 4 attacks each using the bone swords melee combat.
Correct.
So we are doing 24 attacks with bone swords.
I said what?
We're doing 24 attacks with bone swords.
I said what?
24 attacks with bone swords. Using my weapon skill profile, I'm hitting on 3s. So we're looking for 3s and higher. Anything that is not a 3 or higher.
That one's cocked. So this is another thing about a
Yeah,
gentleman's game. Sometimes the dice don't always land correctly.
Yeah. Okay. And then this one's
That's
cocked.
fine.
Oh, you want it?
No, that's fine.
I'm gonna roll it again anyways.
All right. Well, it's still hit.
All right. So I've declared that I'm hitting him with my bone swords.
Yep.
The strength of my weapon is a 4. What is your toughness?
T7.
T7. So that means that I'm wounding on 5s. Okay. So anything that is a 5 or a 6 is a successful wound. So that's 6 wounds.
Yes,
and this has an armor penetration of 2.
Are you for real?
Yes.
Go for it. All right. So Mortarion has a save of 3, and because it's AP -2, that means I'm saving on 5s. So here we go. All right. So 4 go through. And what is the damage?
The damage is 1.
All right. So that's 4 damage, and Mortarion has 18 wounds. So he's down to 14 wounds. This is where the D20 comes in handy. And 14.
Boom. There you go. Once I'm done making my close combat attacks, I can go into my consolidation move.
Yeah.
Where it's the same thing as a pile-in. After you're done attacking, you get to move an additional 3 inches as well. So that's like a 6 inches of movement that you can do while in melee combat. We're just gonna move them all up just about 3 inches, and that's it. So I've done my interrupt, which means that now he continues on with his fight phase with everything else that has charged.
So the Rhino, it has 3 attacks, and it's hitting on 6s. 1 hit.
Okay.
And then it has a strength of 6.
And I have a toughness of 4.
All
so
right,
3s.
so 3s. 1.
Okay.
All right, and
All
that's
right.
it.
And that's all of his charges, which now means that the player that did not make charges and that is in melee combat can now attack.
All right, now what's happening to me?
All right,
what are you doing to me?
Now I'm going to attack your Rhino with all of my Tyrannid warriors. They had 4 attacks each with their Bone Sword profile. There is 9 of them.
Yeah.
9 times 4 is 36.
Yeah.
So that is 36 dice that I am throwing.
Okay.
And I am hitting on 3s.
Okay.
Okay. So now we take out everything that is not a 3. All right, and now I pick up all these dice here.
I am T7.
And he is T7. The strength of my weapon for bone swords is a 4,
Yep.
which means that I am wounding you on 5s.
Cool.
All right, so now
Send it.
we do the same thing. We roll all these dice. This time we are looking for 5s and 6s. Anything that is not a 5 or a 6 is a fail.
Come on, kill it so it can blow up.
They only deal 1 damage each, okay?
That's not enough.
I know. I tried. Okay, so you take that many saves. This has an armor penetration of -2.
-2. So I get a 5-up save. Cool. All right, 5-up.
Send it.
All right. Not bad. I only dropped 5. So I take 1 damage apiece.
1 damage apiece.
So I take 5 damage.
And then that would be the end of the fight phase. Everything has fought. Going into the morale phase.
Yeah. I don't have any.
I also do not have any morale.
I did not kill enough.
All right,
Damn.
and that would be it. So that would be the end of round 1.
Yeah.
And that will be it. That's
did it.
We did it. That's
We
it.
did it.
That's how you play. Yeah, that is it. If you guys like this video, make sure that you leave a thumbs up, press the subscribe button, and if you want to see more on how to play Warhammer 40K for more advanced rules, then you can go check out youtube.com/dicecheck.
And you can catch the stream every Saturday.
Every Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Yep.
Twitch.tv/dicecheck. All right, and that is it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll talk to you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Squeeze.